Hey guys, MasakoX here. And here in 2019 on the MasakoX channel, we intend to make things accessible as possible with people who wish to make what-if scenarios about their favorite series. We can make Dragon Ball what-ifs open to everyone. We wish to actually encourage people to come up with really unusual what-ifs, so for today, we've come up with a rather unusual one of our own. Haverock and I have been really busy thinking this one up, and I think this is something that you might not have been expecting to happen. This actually came off the back of our Dr. Gero character analysis video, and you guys kinda liked that, and we like making it. So we wish to actually expand upon that and see where we could go with it, now that we actually have a better idea as to how Dr. Gero works. For those of you who are curious, you can check the link in the description and up top, but we'll give a quick summary here. The reason why we like Dr. Gero is he's quite possibly one of the last kind of grounded, non-supernatural villains that Dragon Ball Z ever sees. From there, it pretty much gets into the fantastical, and for the longest time it was either in space or a galactic emperor. This guy was just a mad scientist, pretty much just run-of-the-mill relatively for Dragon Ball. This is going to be a much more contained story, but I think that the story that we're going to get is something that I think you guys will actually stick around for. Now, if you didn't pay attention to the title and you just saw the what if part, first off, I don't blame you, but secondly, we're going to be going back to a time in Dragon Ball Z around the time when future Trunks showed up, or more specifically, just before he did. That's right, after the thrill of Namek and the many minutes that we were there, we are sowing the seeds of a potential scenario that could have taken place that not even the hero of time could have anticipated. Ah yes, multiverse theory and all that. Let's suppose, what if Dr. Gero got into bed with the likes of Frieza? Interesting, eh? So let's just get into this and jump into it. We are here just before future Trunks shows up, more specifically around about a year before he does. Goku's off in space somewhere, we know he's at Yardrat, but no one else does. And it's not long after the Saiyan saga where Dr. Gero is busy down in his little sub-lab trying to come up with some ideas for the artificial humans, unbeknownst to anyone else in the Z-Fighters. It's been a long and windy road with many failures along the way, as we know from various sources. But trying to get revenge on Son Goku for the sake of the Red Ribbon Army, even though the Red Ribbon Army has long since been disbanded, is something that the Doctor will do until his final breath. One of his tools, and to be able to make sure that this actually goes off without a hitch, have been the many drones that he has scattered about the Earth, trying to pick who is the strongest fighter on the planet, and therefore learn their fighting style, their techniques, what makes them strong. Just keep an eye on them for the longest time. And so far, it's actually been going really well. They've been able to pile up reams and reams of data which have been very useful for the Doctor. But there's been a hitch. None of his drones have reported to him in several months. They've not got back to him. That is because with the Saiyan attack between Goku and Vegeta, essentially nearly all of the drones on the planet fixated themselves on that particular fight, because that, by far, was the strongest fight on the planet. Not wanting to assume the worst, Gero looks on the bright side. If they were destroyed, then whatever the drones picked up before they were taken out must be absolutely critical for his research. So they kind of went out with a bang. Suddenly, the solitude of his workspace is disrupted by the arrival of a mysterious stranger. Before Gero is able to react and activate all of the security measures within his dark sub-lab, the mysterious stranger holds up his hand and ensures Gero that he is not the enemy here. He is not here to harm the Doctor. No, quite the opposite. He is here to warn him. This stranger reveals that he is from the future and he has come back in time to warn the Doctor of his fallen past, the downfall which is about to come. Gero asks, how does this downfall come about? Why, it comes from his own creations. His own hubris thinking that he could control every single creation that he makes was ultimately the thing that stopped Gero, as we all know. Even his most powerful live weapon falls to the Z-Fighters, all thanks to the interference of a person named Trunks. And this gets Gero thinking, most powerful live creation? What are you talking about? There's a Cell project. That's barely got started. You're telling me that it's about to fail? The stranger elaborates that it's all to do with time travel and different multiverses, and he won't go into details about it because he just assumes that Gero won't be able to understand that, but mate, you're forgetting here. Gero is probably one of the smartest people on the planet. He may be a bit doolally, but he is plenty smart. Trunks is this stranger's most mortal enemy, and honestly, Gero's whole mission to take out Goku, that wouldn't go amiss for the stranger either. From the inner depths of his pocket, Gero assumes that he's about to attack. But no, instead of a weapon, it's actually blueprints. Gero is perusing all of this information and he recognizes bits of it. And he looks up to the stranger, and the stranger confirms. He has been to a timeline where Gero was successful. This is what he could have done had he actually gone through with his project and gotten his revenge. He then turns to the blueprints of 19, the mysterious stranger, and just tuts. You really put all of your hopes in the design of a clown? Hardly intimidating now, is it? Gero just ignores us because he is far too obsessed with these brand new schematics that he's seen. He is not sure how to take all of this. Just suddenly out of the blue, a mysterious stranger, apparently coming from the future, has just come down to provide him some warning, as well as some brand new blueprints which look very similar to what he could do, but he hadn't thought of yet. These are his writing, this is his handwriting and all of the stuff that he would do, it's his style, but how? Gero wants to say no and to banish this guy from out of his lab, but these schematics, they do make sense. The technology is really advanced, but on paper, it could work. Whoever this stranger is, they've done their homework and they've certainly gotten good sources, so the doctor calms down a little bit. The mysterious stranger then goes on to say that in exactly 1 year's time, Gero needs to get ready and to get in contact with someone because future Trunks will arrive on Earth. Gero needs to get in contact with a being known as Lord Frieza, who is the Galactic Emperor of Universe 7. If Trunks gets his way, Frieza will be completely dismantled and the whole plan will fall apart. Only together as one unit could they actually take out 2 Super Saiyans at once. Gero stops and goes, "No, wait a minute. Saiyan? Super Saiyan? Wait, well, what is a Saiyan? Is it something that one spaceman that came out of nowhere mentioned to Goku? Really? Are they connected?" Gero then asks the mysterious stranger a very important question. What makes this stranger so sure that they will listen to the doctor and not just take him out there and then for being insubordinate or being just some weird monkey? Can the stranger give the doctor some kind of guarantee that Frieza will actually pay attention to him? Some kind of leverage, or just some information that not many other people would know about that would pique the interest of Frieza? The stranger is pretty sure that right now, the doctor could come up with some kind of artificial human which could provide some kind of challenge for Frieza. It may not be able to take him out, but it could get him to listen. Before Gero can ask another question, the mysterious stranger has to take his leave. He cannot stay much longer, or else the time-space continuum will start to disrupt and then yank him back into the future. Gero is left alone to himself and this brand new intel. Just like that, he has been able to shave off decades worth of research. But for now though, he decides to focus on the current batch of artificial humans he's got in the pipeline. That is, of course, androids 13, 14, 15, and 16. So who gets the honor of taking on Lord Frieza first? Well, that plum goes to the likes of Android 13, which he finds mighty kind. Or does he? No. Thanks to these blueprints, which he managed to parse some information from, he actually is able to take out that patch, which makes sure that Android 13 doesn't sound like a hick. And I gotta say, Funimation, your dubs are pretty good, but that choice was pretty wild. About as wild as a $30 haircut. Time passes and we are now exactly 1 year after Gero's encounter with the mysterious stranger. Sure enough, it's true. According to Gero's scanners, there is a ship coming down, and it is Lord Frieza and his daddy paying a visit. When they arrive, instead of the Z fighters that they see Android 13 waiting for them, as if he knew they were going to be there. Android 13, now completely taciturn and basically acting like a drone instead of its own being, informs Frieza that his master Dr. Gero would like to have a word with him if he would be so kind. Frieza just laughs this off. He's not in the mood for talking, he's in the mood for the other thing. He's here to have some ice-cold revenge on Goku and his pals. So then he just sends off a ki blast trying to pierce Android 13, but it's easily deflected. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Frieza then sends in his troops to fight off Android 13, but as we know, that pretty much just does nothing. It did nothing for Trunks, so why should it do for 13? 13, without losing any of his cool, and while he's fighting the goons effortlessly, states again that he is not the enemy here. Dr. Gero is willing to pledge loyalty to Frieza and the Empire just for an audience with him, because they both have unfinished business with Son Goku. Son Goku, you say, eh? Now that, you're talking my language, monkey. If this guy will help him take out Goku, then why not? Frieza and King Cold are just about intrigued enough to actually follow Android 13 to Gero's lab. Shortly after that, future Trunks arrives, only to see just loads of Frieza goons on the floor, the ship stationary, Frieza and King Cold nowhere to be seen. And what's even weirder is that he cannot sense Frieza or King Cold's energy at all, even though their ship is here. One of the blueprints that the mysterious stranger left for Gero a year ago was something to be able to suppress energy, some kind of like Faraday cage or invisibility cloak, if you would. Quite clearly, this stranger had some past grievances with ki control, so he would want to make sure that Trunks couldn't just barge in and interrupt with anything that's going on. And it works without a problem. Gero shows them around his lab, but then does tell a little bit of a porky. Instead of getting the information from a mysterious stranger from the future, he just says that his computers are just that powerful, he was able to anticipate their arrival in advance and just actually communicate with them, instead of just getting a tip-off. Thanks to Gero's eccentric personality, as well as his groveling and his just wishing to be a suck-up, Frieza is really endeared to this fellow. Eventually, Frieza talks about his vendetta against Goku in the Super Saiyan form, and this gets Gero going as well, and together they both just wish to plot against Goku. This is something that really makes them bond. The king is far more convinced that Gero may be useful and there is an actual plan here, instead of the doctor just purely brown-nosing. Brown-nosing he's seen before many times, and what he's seeing here is not that. When King Cold looks at the bigger picture, this artificial human program is astounding. Think about it. Instead of just having one at a time, or just 3 at a time, why not a whole army of them? The Frieza Empire has the resources to do it. And not only would you have an army of androids at your beck and call, you wouldn't have to accommodate them or just feed them. You just turn them off and store them somewhere. Just think of the savings, think of the money. We had such a hard job coming up with something to keep my son alive. It's so haphazard, but these creations are so elegant and convincing as if they were alive. And to top this all off, Dr. Gero is more than happy to provide Frieza with a brand new body, and not only that, he could also provide Frieza an infinite energy engine, which would mean that the Frieza bot would never lose stamina again. Frieza actually gets angry and puts Gero up against the wall and just really is triggered about the idea of losing stamina, because that's the thing that brought him down with Goku. Gero recomposes himself after Frieza lets him down and just says the only thing that he asks for, it's not money, it's just time. Frieza thinks about this, wishing just to blast this guy into pieces, but King Cold just says, no wait, don't be so hasty, yeah boy. This could actually be very useful. Right there and then, King Cold decides to postpone the invasion idea and to take out Goku there and then, and instead take Dr. Gero back to Frieza headquarters and then plan an invasion with a brand new army of artificial humans. They can go back to their homeworld and discuss matters further over a nice glass of rosé. Meanwhile, as that's going on and it's being sewn up, Future Trunks is looking around trying to find Frieza and King Cold, but nothing. But then suddenly, just out of the blue, he then sees Frieza's ship in the corner in the far distance where he was, just fly out into the ionosphere and out of sight. He was too late? Where did they come from? What's going on? And indeed, on the way back to the Empire, they picked up Kikuno, who was supposed to act as a supervisor and report to Frieza the progress of Gero's mission and also that he didn't get up to any mischief. However, Gero could see right through this move. Now you see, Gero suspected Kikuno was put in place in order to spy on him, which he was, and tried to learn his secrets. If he's not careful, Gero might end up being made expendable at any moment. Now, although Gero isn't very keen about this company, he's playing this move off in a cordial manner. The Doctor strikes upon an idea. In order to fully gain the trust of Frieza and get his new upgrades in place, Gero upgrades himself. He demonstrates this loyalty to Kikuno as he slowly replaces his own body with mechanical components in order to make sure that this whole procedure is safe for the Emperor to undertake. So thus we get Android 20. Kikuno is suitably impressed. Now, to give the yellow twerp at least some credit, he isn't just meant to be an annoyance or anything. He could prove useful in some way, despite his mind not being the same caliber. He's got very small hands, you see. Together with Gero, he manages to implement the upgraded Scouter technology to himself, as well as his new android prototypes. Now, while Frieza seems to be very keen on trying out these new parts, King Cold manages to convince him that they need to make sure that the procedure is safe for my little pretty pink princess. Now, revenge can wait, especially if the results can be even more glorious than they were going to be. they observed Gero's personal upgrade and the implementation in these new android warriors. Gero had built some androids for Mecha Frieza to train with as a concept, which initially angers the Space Emperor. But when he starts remembering that Android 13 managed to hold his own pretty well against him, Frieza decides to give it a shot and swallow that bitter pill of training. Ugh. Now Gero knows that Frieza and Cole do not trust him fully, and probably never will entirely. They don't seem that kind of people. So he tries to learn everything that there is to be learned about Frieza's spaceship, just in case, how it works and how it runs. Gero puts all of this information into one of his greatest projects to date, Android 16. There is one small problem though. 16 is a rogue project. Frieza can never know about this, not just because it's a plan or anything, but because of the connection 16 has to his own son, which we are now aware of in the original lore. He attempts to hide 16 from Kikuno, stating that the tall droid is just a prototype soldier, nothing important, that he'll manufacture a far greater scale and a much better version, a better battalion for Lord Frieza as soon as they deal with the Saiyans. The Doctor remembers from what the mysterious stranger said, this Trunks figure will indeed return, expecting that the androids will re-emerge in 3 years' time. So given this information, and the way that Gero composes himself, King Cold is willing to give Gero those 3 years to perfect his inventions. Meanwhile, it's worth mentioning what the original protagonists are up to. As in the original, Trunks meets up with Goku, despite the absence of Frieza, and tells him about the androids. They also spar for a little bit, where he for the first time reveals that he is a Super Saiyan as well as Goku. Trunks also says that he is unsure if his interference in the timeline has or hasn't changed something out there, and that they should better keep their eyes open for Frieza as well as the androids, because things are getting a bit dangerous here. As in the original, everyone goes off to train. Now you might say that they train even harder since they now think that Frieza is out there still. 3 years later, and somebody indeed comes to South City. It's Dr. Gero, aka Android 20 and Android 13 in tow. They wreak havoc upon South City, much like in the original with 19, but they're not alone. Frieza's ship is there too, but it remains hidden with the Emperor in his new android body, awaiting the right moment to pop up. In this scenario, Goku has been made more aware of the heart medicine's capabilities and took it with plenty of time, so he sticks around for the entirety of proceedings. Gero avoids direct conflict with the Saiyans, allowing 13 to do most of the dirty work for him, because remember, he is a doctor, not a fighter. Now 13's pretty impressive, sure, but nowhere near as powerful as he is in the movie. Defeating Saiyans is not Gero's goal, however. He is merely collecting the last bit of data that Gero and Frieza needs to finish up their revenge, and that will come later. Vegeta arrives the grand entrance, and he is the one to destroy 13 finally. Then all the attention goes squarely for the Doctor. Gero, however, is much stronger than he is in the original, as the Frieza Force's technology has allowed him to greatly upgrade his old body. He's mostly defending though, awaiting the grand entrance of the Space Emperor Frieza, and because Frieza told him to. Now suddenly, the infinite engine-powered Frieza attacks swiftly and mercilessly, in a way that Saiyans could never have expected. Now, even though he is fighting against 2 Super Saiyans, he is doing pretty well. Kikuno and King Cold are visibly pleased. Even the late entrance of future Trunks doesn't seem to change the fate of the battle. Frieza is doing great against 3 Super Saiyans now, and the Z Fighters can see that they are outmatched. An evacuation order is issued, but before everyone can leave, Dr. Gero remembers that one of the things left in the notes by the stranger, and he then goes squarely for Piccolo. At this point, he hasn't fused with Kami yet, so he is no challenge for Android 20, and gets obliterated to everyone's shock. Gohan tries to attack Gero in a fit of rage, but the Doctor handles him pretty well. "You took away my son, Son Goku. I am taking away yours." Sure enough, this causes Goku to fall into a state of rage seeing his son injured, that allows him to get some serious damage on Frieza. Even Vegeta is pretty surprised. Gero is then forced to help Frieza against the Saiyans, as although he isn't growing weary because, you know, he's got the infinite engine, he wasn't quite prepared for such furious attacks from Goku in this heightened power. The remaining Z Fighters manage to escape along with Gohan, who is injured, but the one thing that the stranger didn't tell Gero about was the fact that senzu beans were a thing, yeah? Meanwhile, Goku's power has become pretty dangerous, and King Cold is pretty worried. Although Goku managed to damage him a bit, Frieza is able to tank him for a while, and attempts to drain his ki, because he has that pan thing that Gero has as well. Gero, on the other hand though, attempts to handle both Trunks and Vegeta together. Luckily for both Gero and Frieza, they do not get tired while Saiyans do. Gero manages to seize an opportunity and fly away from the battle. he uses his last resort, as he did from the very start. He was planning this all along. He put bombs in himself and Frieza, you know, that's a red ribbon android trait, without the Emperor knowing a thing. He did that so Kikuno would think that this is a standard procedure due to the fact that the bombs are connected to the infinite engines. He's got it himself, so Frieza should be fine. Now, before Frieza knows exactly what's happening, he explodes and takes out all 3 Saiyans as well as himself. King Cold is shocked, but Gero is strong enough to dispatch the remainder of the Frieza forces and King Cold. He reveals that he will be the one ruling over Earth, as his revenge has been fulfilled. He will be the one to improve the human race. He doesn't wish to destroy it. He will just create a new marvelous era for artificial humans. And all that with the Frieza Force's technology? It's gonna be good. But someone was watching though, the whole thing. Someone who wished him to tie up all the loose ends. Once the dust clears, the stranger appears and compliments Gero on a job well done. He also comments that Gero can become Earth's god, since he dispatched Kami by killing Piccolo, and that he wishes to uplift his race. Gero then responds with his scientific mind that he doesn't believe in gods, and that in the end, he just wants to maintain the age of rationality. The stranger chuckles though, and responds that his lack of faith might be his downfall. With one swift cut from a keyblade, he beheads the doctor. The stranger reveals that in his perfect plan, there is no place for any mortals, especially those playing gods with their squalid artificial humans. He tells the good doctor not to worry, as not far from now in time, the stranger can finally fulfill his plans, all thanks to Gero. He blows the head of Android 20 up and disappears. Of course, the demises of so many powerful beings has confused the Z-Fighters greatly. Gohan and Baby Trunks are now the only remaining Saiyans alive. Krillin, Yamcha, and Tenshinhan decide to find out what happened, and they find the remains of Gero, King Cold, and Frieza. They cannot fully interpret what happened, but it seems that the villains are just gone. They decide then to check out Frieza's ship. To their surprise, they find out that someone has already dealt with the soldiers. Before they can enter, they are greeted by someone.
Welcome, Krillin, Yamcha, Tenshinhan. I know that it doesn't look like it, but I am not your enemy. We need to work together against a bigger threat.